Hey everyone, welcome. And in this video, we are going to talk about why code coverage is required for any kind of deployment in Salesforce and what is the use of writing a unit test cases for any customization that a developer develops, like any Apex class or any Apex trigger. The unit code is required. First thing is that Salesforce always says that you must need to have at least 75% of code coverage for the complete Salesforce environment. That means if you have thousands of classes inside your Salesforce environment, collaboratively it should have minimum 75% code coverage. On the other hand, Salesforce also required if you have any Apex trigger, that Apex trigger must have at least 1% of code coverage. That means if you are having, suppose that if you are having 100 of classes and these 100 of classes are kind of having 89% of code coverage, and then you have 10 triggers and these triggers collaboratively having 90% of test classes, 90% of code coverage, and out of 10 there is one trigger which is having 0% of code coverage. So in this case, when you try to deploy your Apex trigger, this trigger will fail because this particular trigger required minimum 1% of code coverage. So if you have 89% of code coverage overall, that is well and good. But again, Salesforce is going to say that, or Salesforce deployment process is going to check if all the triggers which are there inside your Salesforce environment have at least 1% of code coverage or not. If the trigger doesn't have any code coverage, then it is going to throw the error. And that's why it is saying that in addition, each trigger must have some code coverage. And here Salesforce is saying that minimum it should be 75%. That means that doesn't means like you should only be targeting 75% of code coverage. I personally, as a Salesforce developer or as a Salesforce architect, I personally target 95% of code coverage. So if you are targeting the maximum code coverage for any Apex development, for any class or trigger, what it is going to do is sometimes in near future or in the current development itself, there are some scenarios where you are not able to cover some part of your Apex code. So this 90% code coverage is going to save you in that case where you are not able to cover. There are some scenarios where that will be a very complex things and you will not be able to cover that part. There might be multiple conditions, multiple switch statements or multiple if else statements you will not be able to cover. So that's why we most of the time for every single customization which we can cover up to max, like if we can cover 100%, that is well and good. If not, we try to target like 95, 97, 90, or we try to target between 80 to 90. Don't go below or don't target the only threshold value that is set by Salesforce. So that is why Salesforce is saying that you must need to have code coverage so that you can deploy your code into the production environment, or you can also sell your package, or you can also upload your packages into the App Exchange so that from App Exchange other vendors or other users can also install into their Salesforce environment. And there are few more points, like if you are writing your Apex code coverage, if you are writing the test cases, that means you are going to check the functionality of your Apex code or Apex trigger code. It is also going to meet the minimum code coverage. That's what we already have discussed. So you must need to write in order to meet the minimum code coverage, but that should not be the intention. The intention should always be to test the functionality in both negative and positive ways. It should be definitely the intention is going to be have to have minimum 75% code coverage, and then again it is going to test your functionalities in bulk ways. Bulk ways, like as a developer, what we do whenever we are going to write any code, what we do is we test for one or two records and we say that this is working fine. But in real time this is not going to happen. Most of the time it is going to be the bulk code. What we have to do is we have to test our code for the bulk number of records, minimum 200. Sometimes it is going to be 1000, 150, but it should be tested in a bulk way. And if we are writing the unit test cases, if we are covering the good amount of code, it is going to give the high quality apps delivered to the production environment. When we are developing, when we are delivering the high quality product to the production environment, it is also going to directly impact the productivity of our production users. The reason behind this is that this is like, if you are giving a functionality which is less buggy, which is more stable, and that is more scalable in solution in long term, so what is going to be is production users, that might be your sales representatives who are targeting the leads, that might be your service representatives who are helping your customers, your end users, they will be able to work without any interruption. But if you are sending some code to the production which is more buggy, which is not scalable, you have got n number of errors, your users, your end users or your production users are not going to work on that, because most of the time they will stuck into the errors and they will sit like we are waiting to that bug to be resolved. So that is also one reason why we write the code coverage. And when we talk about the app exchange development, we are developing, or we can say that we are delivering the high quality assurance application, and that is increasing the trust to the subscribers, to our customers in ours. We are gaining the faith, and we are definitely going to get more and more clients if we are giving the a good quality of work. So that's the reason behind we write the test code coverage inside Salesforce environment, and why we are talking here in between the change set deployment or in the deployment process, because this is very important part. And every time when we are trying to deploy any code or any customization, we are going to talk about these test cases. So I will meet you into the next video where we are going to deploy the changes that we have uploaded into the previous video into our production environment, and we are also going to talk about various deployment options that are available and what is the use of each and every deployment option. Thank you.